A cloud of suspicion surrounds the deaths of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife, whose bodies were found in their Santa Fe home.
The federal agents expected an ordinary investigation. On a cold February morning, they arrived at Gene Hackman's Santa Fe estate, believing they were dealing with a simple case of natural deaths, an elderly couple, routine paperwork, nothing more. The front door was unlocked. Pills were scattered across the bathroom. One dog had died inside a closet, while two others still wandered the property. At first glance, everything seemed tragic, but ordinary. Then investigators discovered something they never expected. Behind a hidden wall in Hackman's private library, they reportedly uncovered evidence pointing to something nearly 312 feet beneath the estate, something that has never been publicly acknowledged and has fueled years of speculation. Before we go any further, if you enjoy mysteries, hidden history, and investigations that challenge the official story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We upload new documentaries every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found dead inside their Santa Fe mansion on February 26, 2025. Investigators later determined that Betsy had likely passed away nearly 3 weeks earlier, around February 3rd. Gene's official cause of death was listed as cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease noted as a contributing factor. Officially, the case was ruled to have resulted from natural causes. However, while the deaths themselves were officially explained, the internet has continued to speculate about the property and the rumors surrounding it. As you'll see, those stories have only made the mystery grow. The fortress. To understand why the property became the center of so much speculation, you first have to understand the estate itself. This wasn't just a luxury celebrity home. According to later claims, it was designed with security measures that resembled a fortified compound. Former security consultant Richard Castagnano reportedly inspected the property during an insurance assessment in 2019. After reviewing its defenses, he was surprised by what he saw. The estate covered roughly 23 acres, surrounded by tall stone walls, reinforced gates, motion sensors, thermal cameras, and an extensive surveillance network. According to the story, what stood out even more than the security systems were reports from contractors who claimed they had been hired to build unusually reinforced underground structures. Construction worker Miguel Reyes later recalled sections with 18-inch thick concrete walls, far stronger than what would normally be required for a standard basement or storage room. When he asked what the space was intended for, he says he was simply told it would be used for storage. Reyes reportedly signed a long-term non-disclosure agreement, but he also claimed he worked on only one section of the project. According to him, other crews handled deeper underground construction that he was never allowed to see. Long before anyone knew what was hidden beneath the estate, there was the discovery. For 22 years, Dr. Patricia Okonkwo had worked as a forensic photographer for federal law enforcement. She had documented cartel execution sites, mass graves, and crime scenes so disturbing they haunted even seasoned investigators. Through it all, she never lost her composure. Her camera stayed steady, and her attention never wavered. So when she arrived at Gene Hackman's mansion on February 26th as part of the FBI's initial response team, she expected a routine investigation. The quiet atmosphere, typical of a home where two elderly people had passed away peacefully. Instead, something immediately felt off. The second I walked through the front door, I knew something wasn't right, she later recalled. At first glance, everything looked ordinary, But the closer she examined the house, the more the small details refused to make sense. Heavy furniture had clearly been moved not long before. Old indentations remained in the carpet where pieces had rested for years, while fresh marks revealed they had recently been repositioned. Scratches across the hardwood floors didn't match the slow movements expected from two elderly residents with limited mobility. Hackman's study raised even more questions. Papers and files looked as though someone had carefully searched through them before quickly putting everything back into place. There were only two logical possibilities. Either someone had systematically gone through every room looking for something, or Gene Hackman himself had intentionally rearranged the house during his final weeks, making certain that some things would eventually be discovered, while ensuring others remained hidden forever. Neither explanation matched the official picture of a quiet, natural death. Then everything changed inside the library. As part of a standard forensic inspection, Dr. Okonkwo began examining the mahogany wall panels, feeling for concealed compartments. Investigators rarely expect to find hidden spaces, but overlooking one is never an option. That was when she noticed it. One section of the wall, about 4 feet across, sounded different when tapped. Instead of a solid thud, it echoed with a hollow resonance. There was empty space behind it. Looking closer, she spotted an almost invisible seam, so perfectly crafted that it disappeared unless viewed from exactly the right angle. After pressing on a hidden release point, the panel quietly shifted open. What appeared behind it stopped her in her tracks. A narrow stone passage stretched into darkness, its worn staircase twisting deep beneath the mansion. The steps had been smoothed by decades of use. Cold, damp air drifted upward, carrying a stale odor that one investigator later compared to opening a place that had remained sealed for generations. But the tunnel hadn't been completely forgotten. Sections of the walls had been reinforced with modern materials, and fresh electrical conduit had been installed along the ceiling. Someone had maintained this hidden passage in recent years. The corridor measured only about 36 inches wide and descended at a sharp angle. Much of the original stonework appeared to be nearly a century old, yet it was built with remarkable precision. This wasn't a simple underground tunnel. It was an engineered structure designed to survive for generations. The only mystery was why someone had gone to such extraordinary lengths to conceal whatever lay at the bottom. Dr. Okonkwo remained at the top of the staircase for nearly a full minute. Years later, she admitted she briefly considered turning back. "I couldn't explain the feeling," she said. "There wasn't an obvious threat, but every instinct I had was telling me I was walking towards something my training had never prepared me for." Despite that warning, she continued downward, and what she discovered below would completely reshape everything investigators believed they knew about Gene Hackman, his estate, and the forgotten history buried beneath it. The descent lasted nearly 15 minutes. Roughly 312 feet below the library, the staircase finally ended. Waiting there wasn't simply another room. It was a massive underground vault. The chamber measured approximately 40 by 60 feet, crowned with elegant arched ceilings that local historian Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had spent years researching the property, immediately recognized as matching Spanish colonial construction, dating to the late 19th century. Her investigation uncovered a pattern that was difficult to ignore. Between 1920 and 1965, ownership of the land changed hands 7 different times. Yet every transfer had been structured in a way that concealed the identity of the true buyer. Shell corporations, anonymous trusts, and intentionally vague paperwork formed a maze that made tracing the property's real ownership nearly impossible. These records don't look like ordinary real estate transactions, Vasquez explained. They look like a blueprint for disappearing without leaving a trail. Then there were the geological surveys. From 1945 to 1950, 3 independent surveys of the property were commissioned. None of them were ever completed. 2 of the surveyors left New Mexico only months after beginning their work. The third died in a car crash just 6 weeks after his final visit to the estate. 3 investigations, 3 unfinished reports, 1 unexplained death. No one had ever connected those events until Dr. Vasquez began piecing the history together. The underground chamber held even more mysteries. 47 wooden crates were stacked against the walls. Some remained sealed, while others had rotted with age, spilling their contents across the stone floor. A thick blanket of dust covered almost everything. Almost. Near several of the crates, the dust had clearly been disturbed. Someone had entered this vault not long before the FBI arrived, and it wasn't law enforcement. One crate contained a leather-bound ledger dated 1947. Every page was packed with names, dates, and financial records, all handwritten in German. Another held 63 aging photographs. The faded images showed men wearing military-style uniforms, unlike those of any officially recognized armed force. Some photographs captured small meetings inside dimly lit rooms. Others showed unfamiliar locations that investigators still haven't been able to identify. Several of the photographs had something even stranger in common. Specific names had been carefully removed, not crossed out, but scraped away with incredible precision, as though someone wanted every trace of those identities erased. Then investigators found one image that brought the search to a halt. It showed a group of men standing outside what appeared to be the very entrance of the hidden tunnel. Judging by the clothing and the quality of the photograph, it had likely been taken sometime during the 1940s, but 2 people were missing. Their faces hadn't been blurred or damaged by time. They had been physically cut out of the photograph, gone forever. Someone had made absolutely certain those 2 individuals would never be identified. Yet even those discoveries were overshadowed by what covered the far wall of the chamber. As Dr. Okonkwo swept her flashlight across the stone, she froze. Her camera slipped from her hands. Every inch of the wall was covered with symbols, hundreds of them. They stretched from floor to ceiling in tightly arranged patterns, carved with extraordinary precision. During the first examination alone, she photographed more than 300 separate markings. By the end of the documentation process, her hands were trembling. In more than 2 decades of forensic work, she had never experienced a physical reaction to evidence before. "I couldn't stare at them for more than 30 seconds, she later admitted. There was something about the accuracy, the deliberate way they had been made. It felt as though I was looking at something I was never meant to witness." Experts who later examined the photographs couldn't agree on what they were seeing. Some symbols resembled medieval alchemical inscriptions. Others looked more like technical diagrams, designs that seemed far too advanced for the era in which the chamber was supposedly built. A third group matched neither category. Dr. Marcus Webb, an astrophysicist who spent 3 weeks studying the images, offered a cautious interpretation. "Certain arrangements resemble astronomical mapping," he explained. "If these patterns correspond to actual star positions, they point to a time roughly 12,000 years in the past." He paused before adding one final possibility. "Or perhaps 12,000 years in the future. The mathematical relationships aren't random. They demonstrate an understanding of orbital mechanics that simply shouldn't have existed during the 19th century. Today, three main theories attempt to explain the symbols. The first suggests they were created by a wealthy eccentric fascinated with the occult. The second proposes they form an encrypted system that can only be understood with the correct key. The third theory is the one researchers find hardest to dismiss. It argues that the markings preserve knowledge intentionally passed from one generation of caretakers to the next, knowledge about our world that was never intended to become public. If that's true, then the official history of Gene Hackman's estate may reveal only the newest chapter of a story that began long before the mansion was ever built. But even those mysterious symbols weren't the most unsettling discovery hidden inside that underground chamber. At the deepest end of the underground vault, hidden behind a pile of collapsed crates, investigators reportedly came across something that instantly changed the mood. An enormous iron door, nearly 8 feet tall and 4 inches thick, stood covered in rust and decades of grime. It had no handle, only a heavily corroded locking mechanism that appeared designed to keep whatever lay beyond permanently sealed. One anonymous investigator later recalled the moment. "We thought we knew what we were dealing with. Then we found the door, and the entire room went silent. It didn't just look old, it felt ancient, like it had been waiting there for generations." According to the story, the mysterious door has never been opened, and officials have offered no public explanation for why it remains sealed. That silence has fueled countless theories. Some believe it leads to forgotten military tunnels, while others speculate it hides another chamber, buried even deeper beneath the property. Adding to the mystery, thermal imaging reportedly suggested airflow behind the barrier, implying the passage continues beyond the iron door instead of ending there. Former contractor Miguel Reyes also claimed he was once asked about installing blast-resistant, government-grade doors on the property. He declined the job, saying it was outside his expertise, but he was told someone else would be hired instead. Neighbors have shared their own strange stories. Some recalled hearing deep mechanical noises beneath the ground late at night. Others described unexplained vibrations, unusual truck deliveries after midnight, and occasional power fluctuations. One resident even claimed to have seen Gene Hackman standing silently outside in the early hours, staring toward the exact area where the alleged tunnel entrance was later discovered. Questions surrounding the deaths of Gene and Betsy Hackman have only added to the speculation. While authorities ruled the deaths were due to natural causes, online theories continue to focus on unanswered details, including reports of corrupted security footage and why Betsy's death reportedly went unnoticed for weeks. As of today, these claims remain unverified, and there is no publicly confirmed evidence that a secret tunnel, sealed vault, mysterious crates, or hidden chamber exists beneath the Hackman property. Much of the story comes from anonymous sources and internet speculation rather than official investigative findings. Even so, the mystery continues to capture the imagination. Whether it's an extraordinary hidden truth or simply another modern legend, one question keeps resurfacing. If there really is something behind that sealed door, what, if anything, is waiting on the other side? The biggest question isn't who may have built the tunnel. It's whether Gene Hackman had any connection to it at all. Across the internet, countless stories claim that Hackman knew exactly what lay beneath his property and deliberately purchased the estate to protect a hidden secret. Some even suggest he spent decades serving as its silent guardian. Yet, despite the dramatic claims, no verified evidence has ever been presented to support them. Rumors continue to circulate about anonymous property transfers, sealed evidence, missing photographs, a mysterious German ledger, and denied Freedom of Information Act requests. These allegations have never been confirmed by official sources, and no publicly available records establish that such discoveries were made during any federal investigation. The estate's sophisticated security system has also become part of the mystery. Supporters of these theories argue that the walls, surveillance cameras, thermal sensors, and strict privacy measures point to something far more significant than celebrity seclusion. Others maintain that these features are exactly what would be expected on the home of a wealthy public figure seeking privacy and security. Some versions of the story go even further, claiming that in his final years, Hackman was trying to ensure that whatever lay beneath the property remained undiscovered. But once again, there is no public evidence to support that narrative. What remains today is a mystery, driven almost entirely by speculation rather than documented fact. There is no credible public evidence confirming the existence of a secret underground chamber, a sealed iron door connected to a federal investigation, or any hidden discovery beneath Gene Hackman's estate. Until verifiable evidence emerges, the story remains an intriguing internet mystery, one that continues to capture attention, not because it has been proven, but because so many questions remain unanswered.